Welcome to Best Online Lectures. My name is Rajesh, lecturer in geology. Today, we'll just focus how to prepare your biology in our upcoming first year, first PUC. I think it is very important to know how to prepare for competitive exams first of all, because in PUC for board exams, every student will easily prepare, but all students will be in confusion how to prepare for competitive exams. Especially, you all know that for NEET exams, there will be national competition. In school days, you all know that there is biology, which is your favorite subject, I think. But when come to college, the biology is divided into two subjects. One is related to plants, another one is related to animals. The plant biology is botany and the animal biology is zoology. Before we learned biology as a single subject, but here we are going to learn it as a two subjects. One is botany, another one is zoology. Both have equal importance and equal weightage in NEET examination. In NEET examination, we have 90 questions from biology, 45 from botany and 45 from zoology. Based on that only, you can easily estimate the importance of biology in NEET examination. So I have to give equal priority for both botany and also zoology. I am zoology lecturer, so I have to introduce the concepts for you. How to prepare the zoology in your first PUC, which has a weightage of 21 to 22 bits in your NEET exam, remaining 22 to 23 bits from second year zoology portion. In this first year, what are the topics you are going to learn in zoology part? That I am introducing to you. First of all, in zoology part, you should learn various concepts. All are mainly related to structural zoology, anatomy related topics, and related topics also you have to study here. In this, you are going to learn is the living world. The very first chapter in the first PU zoology we are going to learn is the living. In this chapter, what are the concepts you have to learn in your first PUC that you have to know? I just brief about this living world. Maybe you all know that I wrote here the zoology. You know what is zoology or what is biology first? What is biology? Biology is what? Tell me. It is the study of living organisms or it is the study of life. The biology study of living organisms or study of life. Then what is living organism? What is living? Going to learn in this chapter. What is living? Zoology. What is zoology? The study of animals. You are all well known that. What is an animal? What is an animal? This is the study of life or living organisms. What is a living organism? Zoology is the study of animals. Then what is botany? Is the study of plants. You know very well. What is a plant? Do you know the definitions for this? Very simple questions I am asking. What is animal? What is plant? Intellectually, you are just telling sir, organisms, sir, animals and plants. Then what is a living organism? If you know zoology is the study of animals, you are fit for your PUC exam. Then what animal in that? You are only giving the answer. What is the zoology means? The study of animal. What if you search for that? If you know that concept, you only decide. Your learning will be conceptual or your learning will be. If you are good in by heart, you are fit for a PUC only. You learn conceptually. No need to feel, no need to feel shame. Ayo, sir, is animal. I am not able to tell animal. What is animal? Am I be a doctor? Am I fit for a doctor post? No need to feel like that. Universities, I also don't know what is animal. Because whenever you go for conceptual learning, then you will get a subject. If you are good in a subject, automatically your confidence will increases. Automatically you will get good ranks. So conceptual learning will be very important for NEET preparation. Without knowing concepts, we are by hearting complete biology textbook. If you will by heart, you won't get marks. Concept is very important. What you are learning, why you are, how to learn that, how to practice, and how to get marks in that. That are the concepts you have to, because you are in a junction now. You are in confusion from school to college. You shifted now. In school, everything is like a spoon feeding, but here everything is not like that. You have to practice. You have to. They are here to guide you, to give you a particular plans, a particular conceptual learning, then you will be fit for NEET. I think majority of the students who will focus to become a doctor, you should modify yourself. You should change yourself from by heart to conceptual learning. In this chapter, the living world, first of all, you will learn what is a living. As a biology student, you have to know what is biology means. That is a study of living organisms. Everyone know. Then what is the living? How could you identify a living organism? If I will give different substance, different materials to you, if any living is there, if I will give you a wall lizard, a frog, a duster, a chalk, a biscuit packet, a chocolate, and all in a group, can you able to identify which is living, which is non-living? You can easily identify. How could you identify living? Based on some characteristics, right? You know, living organisms, very well known one, living organisms can move. Majority of the living organisms can move. So frog can move from here to there, sir. Lizard can creep from here to there, sir. I can easily identify frog and lizard in that. Okay, but uh, all living can move. Is a possibility? For example, all plants, these trees that cannot move, is that living or non-living? If you observe in a home, wooden chair, or wooden bed, or door, wooden door, and a plant, both have wooden, means both, is that both are living? What is the difference between them? Is there any more characters of living? Some students will tell, sir, growth, living organisms will grow, sir. Non-living cannot be grow, sir. Right? All living should grow. All non-living cannot grow. Is it true? For example, if I will give you, if you will go to ice cream shop and buy ice cream, first they will add some little bit of ice cream. Again and again they will add. Then what will happen? What will the size of this ice cream? The size will increase, no? That is nothing but growth, no? Increase in the size is nothing but growth, no? Right? This ice cream is living or non-living? Non-living, no? Then how could it grow? You will see some short people, dwarf people. If you go to circus shows, there are some midgets, short people. In that people, there is no growth. It's stunted. Growth is stopped. Are they living or non-living? Living or non-living? Living, right? So, based on growth and based on movement, we can living and non-living. Is there any more characters? Then we have to go for other characters. For example, all organisms are made up of cells. Without cell, is there any chances? No. Without cell, there is no living organ. What about this wood? In wood also, is it living? Cells are there, but all that are died cells. Okay. So living organisms, the first unique character, that is nothing but cellular organization. The body of every living organism is made up of live cells, not dead cells. So that is one of the fundamental property of every living organism. If in a substance or if in a material, if there is a living cells, it is made up of living cells. So we can identify that as a living. That is a definitive property of a living organism. And one more thing, if suddenly a tiger will enter into this class, what will happen? Or a snake will enter into this class, what will happen? All the students who are here escape. But these chairs and benches and all these are, they cannot try to escape. What it means? Living organisms can respond to stimuli. That is the consciousness. Have consciousness. But what about these chairs and tables? Is that have consciousness? No, they cannot respond to any stimulus. But human being, if I will scold you, if I will beat you, you will start crying. So that is your response, right? Sir, some students cannot respond, sir, means that is their wish. Even I scold, even they beat, they are not responding means that is a different case. I am not telling about that. I am telling a normal person. Whenever there is any external stimulus, the living organisms will respond. Not only for this type of factors. Living organism also respond for abiotic factors. For example, if temperature will be increases during summer, what will you do in your home during summer season? You will respond to external stimulus, that is increase levels. Your body will start sweating. That is the response factor. Because you are a living organism, because of that only you should respond to abiotic factor. If you will expose to very cold conditions, if you go to a polar region or Himalayas, what will happen? Your body is shivering. That is also respond. But the non-living substances cannot show this property. Okay. Living substances cannot possess the live cells. Non-living substances cannot respond to external stimulus, and this non-living substances does not have any metabolisms. For example, in human being there are many metabolisms. If you take a food into your mouth, at the time of chewing the food, automatically your saliva will start. If it will enter into your stomach and intestine, the food will be completely digested. This digestion is a metabolism. If you inhale the air, that will enter into your lungs and exchange the gases will take place and it will enter into the cell and burn and it will release the energy. Your heart will continuously beat, that will pump the blood, then only transport of materials takes place in your body. So all this metabolism takes place in the bodies of only living organisms. But in non-living substances, no. If you keep a food material, is there any chances for digestion? If you fill a bottle with oxygen, is there any respiration? No, because it is a non-living system. So metabolic defining property. And reproduction. Is there any chances for reproduction by non-living substances? No non-living. If you keep a chair in a room for 10 years or 20 years or 30 years, there will be only one chair. It cannot be 10 or 20. If you plant a small plant in your ground, after 20 years, what will happen? The number of that plants will increases. So that can able to reproduce, this cannot. So reproduction is a defining, not defining property, because defining property means that is the unique character of living. Reproduction is very important character of living, but not a defining property, because all living organisms cannot able to reproduce. Some people cannot able to get children. They cannot, they are sterile, they are infertile. These are offsprings. But we cannot consider them as a non-living. So reproduction is one of the very important character, but not defining property. Defining property means that is the unique character of only living, not non-living. So like that, we have with the characteristics of all the living organisms. After identification of living organism, then how to classify these organisms for convenient study? To study that there are some species, some trillions of animals and plants. We study all that within a short period of time. Human being has a very short lifespan. How could we study all this entire living world? Is it possible to study one by one, one by one? If you study like that in your home, only some thousands of ants are there. Every day one ant will count means your life is not sufficient. If you know the general character of ant, if you study only one ant, that is enough to study all the ants. That is equal to all study of all the ants. Okay, how to develop that type of methods? For that, we have to go for classification of organisms. First, we have to identify. We have to write down the characters. First one is identify, that is identification. Second one is identification of characters, that is a characterization. After characterization, we have to suggest a particular name for that. Without a particular name, how could I identify you? Is it possible? So like that, to identify a particular animal, a particular required. For example, you are a human being. What is your scientific name? Homo sapien. Homo sapiens. Homo sapien means not only you, the entire human being who are living on the earth is Homo sapien. It is a common scientific name accepted by these organizations, naming organizations. For example, there is International Code of Zoological Nomenclature, International Code of Botanical Nomenclature, International Union for Zoological Nomenclature, and all are there. In that, they have to apply for a name. After that, they have to accept. Then we have to apply that name for a particular. Sir, I selected a name for that one animal. In another country, another people named that animal with a different name. Then how could we identify? So how to name the animal? That concept we will discuss in this chapter. How to name a plant? How to name an animal? What are the rules we have to follow? Homo sapiens. How many names are there in that? Two names are there. Maybe you studied binomial nomenclature given by Carolus von Linnaeus. Carolus von. So that binomial nomenclature, trinomial nomenclature methods, all that we will discuss here. And after that, what are the taxonomical categories we have to follow for the classifying of organisms? We will study here. Okay, all the concepts we will learn in this chapter, the living world. In the chapter living world, very easy chapter, very conceptual topics are there. In this, you are going to learn how to identify a living organism, what are the definitive characters, what are the non-definitive characters of a living organism, and how to identify, characterize, nomenclature, and classify the organisms, and also what are the important categories. For example, there are 7 obligatory categories are there for the classification of organisms. Maybe you all know that. First, there is a kingdom. After kingdom, phylum, class. After class, order. After order, family. After family, genus. After genus, species. This is the obligatory categories. We will discuss all that. And one more, taxonomical aids is there. What aid means? Object, which is useful to classify the organisms. For example, by studying a journal in the, you learned how to classify the animals or plants. That is your taxonomical aid. By visiting a museum, if you get knowledge how to classify the organisms, that is your taxonomical aid. By reading a book or diary, if you learn how to classify the organism, that is your taxonomical aid. By going for a botanical park or by a zoo, you can, if you learn how to classify, that is your taxonomical aid. So taxonomical aids are different types, but that will put common knowledge that is useful to classify the organisms. But this year, in the process of reducing the syllabus, they deleted temporarily. Okay, they deleted taxonomical aids temporarily. So that is the first chapter you are going to learn in zoology. After completion of this, The second one, here very interesting one, that is kingdom. Animal kingdom. So already I wrote on the top, that is the zoology. What is zoology? It is a study of animals. All the animals are members of a kingdom, that is the animal kingdom. All the members. So all the animals are belongs to which kingdom? That is kingdom Animalia. In this kingdom Animalia, entire animals which are present on the earth, their respective taxonomy, that is a classification we have to study. You know, which are the first animals that arose on the earth? The first animals on the earth and last evolved animals on the earth. The first animals on the earth are poriferans, which are known as sponges. Those are sponges. The taxonomist established a phylum for them, that is the porifera. The entire kingdom Animalia is broadly classified into two groups based on the dorsal supporting structure, that is vertebral column or spinal or backbone. Commonly we are calling this as a backbone or vertebral column, but scientifically it is a notochord. Based on the presence of notochord, the entire kingdom Animalia is divided into groups, invertebrates and vertebrates. What is the character of invertebrates? They doesn't possess any supporting structure on dorsal side. In human being, there is a vertebral column for supporting. If you observe, vertebrates or chordates, there is a dorsal supporting rod-like structure, that is a notochord. If notochord is present, that are vertebrates or chordates. If notochord is absent, a dorsal supporting structure is absent, that is invertebrate or non-chordate. So based on a single character, the entire kingdom Animalia is divided into two groups, invertebrates and vertebrates. More scientifically, non-chordates and chordates. What is the non-chordate character? They doesn't possess any dorsal supporting structure. That means notochord is completely absent. What about chordates? They possess a dorsal supporting structure, notochord. This notochord may further well developed and modified into vertebral column like human being. Okay, so that is a simple classification. All animals belongs to kingdom Animalia is grouped into two groups: invertebrata, vertebrata. It is not scientific words. The most scientific words is non-chordata, chordata. Right? Again, these non-chordates further divided into different phyla based on their external features, based on other habits, for example, food habits, locomotion, reproduction, their respective characters, all that are again classified into uh, different phyla. According to your syllabus, they mentioned 10 phyla here. Total 10 phyla they mentioned in invertebrates, one phylum in just giving introduction. No need to write all this. I will just give you syllabus now. In next classes, further classes, we will go through the all concepts. Okay, in this kingdom, what are the non-chordates and what are the chordates? Just I will give you the names. Just listen. I think already you studied that in lower classes. See, the first animal group is Porifera, the first phylum in kingdom Animalia. These are the first animals that evolved. Okay, from unicellular eukaryotes, that is protistans, that is Porifera, commonly known as sponges. Later, this Porifera undergone some modifications and modifies into Cnidaria, that developed as a Cnidaria. After that Cnidaria, there is a Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Annelida, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinoderma, Hemichordata. That are the invertebrate phyla or non-chordate phyla. There are 10 non-chordate phyla: Porifera, Cnidaria, Ctenophora, Platyhelminthes, Aschelminthes, Arthropoda, Mollusca, Echinoderma. The details of all these 10 phyla are here. What are the general characters of them? What are the examples for them? For example, you know, the Is it belongs to chordates or non-chordate? Wall lizard possesses a dorsal vertebral column, so it is a chordate. That you have to remember. If you see a snail, a garden snail, to non-chordate because there is no dorsal supporting structure. It belongs to phylum Mollusca. You know, cockroach. Cockroach belongs to non-chordate, just it is a arthropod, insect. Okay. So like that, all the topics we are going to study here in the chapter Animal Kingdom. Right. Next, after completion of this Animal Kingdom, the next chapter here is structural organization in animals. Structural organization in animals. This is the third chapter in your biology syllabus. This chapter, you are mainly study about that are present in the bodies of animals. How various structures are developed. How that structures are modified from one phylum to another phylum. Okay. So here in the structural organization in animals, first of all, we have to know how the body of an animal is made up of. How the body of animal is made up of means what are the tissues present in the body of animals. For example, if you see your body, which type of tissues are present in the body? From porifera to mammalia, all the animals possess only four type of tissues. Small ant, or it is the largest animal, Belnoptera musculus, blue whale. Both possess same type of tissues. In both organisms, there are only four type of tissues. Either it is a small ant or it is the largest animal, Belnoptera musculus. There is only four type of tissues, but their quantity is different. Their arrangement is different. The type of tissues present here you have to study. There are four type of tissues. Already you learnt in lower classes: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. So all the animal bodies are made up of only tissues: epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. Cockroach or it is a dolphin. Both are animals. Both possess same type of tissues, but their quantity and arrangement is different. But the body is made up of only four type of tissues. What are they? Epithelial tissue, connective tissue, muscular tissue, and nervous tissue. You will learn all that four type of tissues, that respective classifications, their respective locations in the body of organisms. And after that, there are studies in this chapter. Type study means a complete study. The external morphology, digestive system, respiratory system, circulatory system, excretory system, reproductive system, and nervous system of a particular animal is type study. You have to study cock, earthworm, and frog. Three type studies are there. The total details of these three animals, the external characters, external morphology, where that are living, what is the food habits and all. Along with that, digestive system, respiratory system, excretory system, circulatory system, reproductive system, and nervous system of all these three animals you have to study. What are the animals? Cockroach, earthworm, and frog. But reducing syllabus for this year, the type studies they removed. Temporarily, they removed type studies from in this year. So you have to study only tissues in this chapter. Before it was the biggest chapter in your syllabus because there was three type studies for each animal. Six systems you have to study. So 18 systems and there's a morphology. So it was, but now that three type studies was temporarily removed. So you have to study only four type of tissues here. So that is three chapters. Still some more chapters are there: biomolecules and human physiology. There are 7 chapters. We will continue that in next class. So these three chapters you just remember. In next class we will continue the remaining syllabus. Okay, thank you.